I can't even use my Steam Deck with the Duo setup, but you know, we'll live. Hi, chat. Welcome.
Yo.
It's just us, just the two of us. I probably have the stinger for that, and I'm not gonna play it, just because, you know, copyright or whatever. But let me tweet from the thing.
None of the plague things are frost spell. Oh, that's okay.
No, there's a couple that are frost spells. I think there's one that's like that's got a frost rune on it.
Right, yeah, but for northern navigation, nothing that shuffles in plagues is.
Oh, is that the one that blows up something?
No, down the ship is shadow. Northern navigation discover spell from your deck.
Oh, it's not. It's frost. Wait, isn't it? Oh, it's frost school, not frost rune. Oh, that's really confusing. Okay, I read that as frost rune.
No, it has to say rune for it to be.
I know.
Rune.
Yeah, I'm realizing that now. Yeah, but
yeah, frost is the only one that gets that misunderstanding too, right?
Yeah.
Because there aren't unholy or blood schools, so
yeah. Yeah, I totally read that wrong because I was thinking, oh yeah, it's got frost runes on it. It's fine. It'll get that, but yeah, it's not gonna do that.
Nope.
Okay, I have tweeted the tweet. I need to post in the Discord, but
I was excited to do plagues as rainbow, but double unholy one frost is interesting too.
Yeah, well, you basically need to run double unholy in order to do it, right? So, I mean, if you're gonna run all the plagues, which like, why wouldn't you? Right?
If you're really gonna go all in, I mean, I think there's a world where you can just be like, Helia makes them unending, right? Yeah. Like, and like, theoretically, it is enough on its own as long as you can keep yourself alive. I mean, we'll get into it, but
yeah. All right, I have tweeted.
Unending means Discord. What I think it does, right?
It shuffles back. It's like Hakar.
Every time they draw one,
it shuffles another one in. So it works like Hakar used to.
Well, Hakar doubled every time, so it's not quite
right. Well, I mean, it's only one, not
cruel,
two. Yes, but yeah.
But they're getting one of each of them, and they will always have one of each of them unless you play one of the things that destroys something.
Yeah, like Steam Cleaner or whatever, or you burn them.
Right. Oh man, see, this is the thing: is Steam Cleaner is going to remain.
Yeah, but you just hold one back, right, and then it's still there.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's funny because Deck Tech tweeted like, "Unending works the way you think it does," and I replied to him, "If it worked the way I thought it did, then that reveal would still be going." So... but yeah, so we have, I've got the show note. I feel like my tabs are all over the place right now, but that's fine. That's my own damage. Going into the office will do that to me, but at least I have my Steam Deck on the train, so. I need to open Audacity. That's what I need to do. That would be a helpful thing. I'm not installing an update. Audacity, you should know better. Nope, don't do that. Nope. Oh, no. It's like I clicked the wrong button clearly, and that is not okay. We're not doing that.
Oh, this is unintuitive. Huh. So they don't just auto lose if the only thing in their deck is unending plagues.
No, it works. That's why I was saying it works like a car, where it's gonna trigger everything, and then it's gonna stop, and then it's gonna shuffle.
Right. Yeah, I mean
that's the part that's like a car.
Yeah. I honestly didn't remember how.
How could you not remember Hakar?
No, I remembered Hakar, but I didn't remember that it was after like that because
Yeah.
so frequently by that point there were so many that you just died, right? Like
You weren't playing the right decks back then.
well, I mean, but like by the time they swap decks with you, they've already like made it so there's like 30.
Who was swapping decks?
Well, because it
wasn't
was
swapping.
Togwag, it was Druid, right? They would Togwaggle.
No,
after
I
they
was
drawn enough
running it
bloods.
as a tech card in Priest against Shrivala Paladin.
Oh wow!
Because that's just the kind of damaged human I am. But yeah, that's why I was saying you weren't running the right decks.
No, I wasn't playing the Hakars. I was running into Hakar Druid, right? Or seeing Dog play it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that sounds like a dog thing. Hey, Grand Arcanum, G-Meta, good to see you. I think I am ready if you're ready to start recording, because we could talk about this on a podcast.
Yeah, we can. Have it ready tonight. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
We can do this.
Okay, so I am recording.
Recording.
Okay. All right. So 3, 2, 1, clap. 3. It's only 2 of us. We can't get it right. 3, 2, 1, clap. All right.
Because I was looking at the Twitch and not Discord.
Okay, I see. All right. Okay. Starting the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
I grant you permission to speak.
Shadows hide you. I am listening.
Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Hello and welcome to episode 404 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, July 13th, 2023 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. And from Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. As always, thank you for your reviews, please. If you like to support the show and cannot do so monetarily, consider leaving us a 5-star review. It always helps other people find the show. And it's just the two of us today. Card reveal season means longer episodes, and we kind of felt like it was just a tough week for us, and it would be easier to just do the two of us for some card talk this week. In terms of life and ladder, how's it been going for you, Wicked?
Well, I kind of went Super Saiyan over the weekend and hit Legend in 2 formats. So
oh, okay.
Yeah. So I started in Twist and I played Quest Shaman up to Legend. It was a pretty smooth sailing up until I hit like middle of Diamond 2, and then I kind of went a little bit back and forth. But there are not very many people playing up at that MMR in Twist.
Yeah.
And so I was running into I imagine it had to be like people who had already hit Legend and were memeing, because I was running into just like bizarro stuff, right? Like I played against a Thief Rogue. You can imagine how thrilled I was at that. that I was running into a Thief Rogue who was, I mean, because they had all the greatest hits, right? They had Plagiarize, they had Reconnaissance, they had Swashbuckler, Foxy Fraud. I just finished the quest and burned them down, right? Like I did, like I had the quest done on turn 5, or it was actually later than that. It was turn 8, but I just they had like a full board. I don't know how they got the Blightblood Berserkers. They had 2 Blight. That is so hard to say. like Blood Berserker, which is like the 3/8 taunt, lifesteal, reborn, death rattle, deal 3 damage. So I just like finished the quest, got a charge call, got 2 Drakurus, and just cleared them out. and then I burned them down for the rest. So it was I don't know exactly, I don't remember exactly what happened. I kind of blocked that out of my memory, but you know, that was actually the more normal game, because after that I ran into a ramp druid. And their shtick was that they were ramping into Nightshade Bud, which is the summon a minion from your deck or cast a spell from your deck.
Sure.
Choose one. To get Ysiel Windsinger, which is the all your spells cost 1 minion.
Oh, goodness.
So
Okay.
that they could convoke the spirits. And of course there was a Lady Anacondra involved in this too. And then I don't know if they ran if they run Celestial Alignment in that deck, but Convoke the Spirits sure did that for them. And then they had a Nourish in hand and Lady Anacondra, so they just kept going. And they had just like this and it played double Survival of the Fittest, I think, at some point. Like,
Sure,
this was
why not?
this is one of the games where it's like, which way did the truck come from, right? So, and I realized, like, after they started doing the second Convoke the Spirits, that I needed to start clicking through animations because otherwise I wasn't gonna get a turn. So I didn't actually see like everything that it did, but I saw like whatever the board looked like at the end of it. But luckily, I had happened to get a Primordial Wave off of a guidance, and I just like wiped their board back after they buffed everything, and then just hit them in the face. So yeah, and I think I had a double Tidal Wave in that game too, just for good measure. But because they spent everything getting that one turn, and yeah, it was just like, okay, whatever. Like, let's go next. Like, this is dumb. I just, devolved their board, made them all small again, hit them in the face, and we were good. But it was, yeah. So I did that, and then in Standard the next day, I decided that I went through the HS replay, and I just like picked up Hound Hunter again. And it was a deck that I've been playing at the beginning of the season, and it kind of did okay. And whatever. And I picked it up Sunday night. I hit Twist Legend Sunday afternoon, and then I started playing this Sunday night. And I figured I would just like keep playing until I lost, and I played like 8 or 9 games in a row before I lost. It was just like I was watching Sidisi stream, and I told him I was upset at how well this deck was performing. Like, because I wanted to have an excuse to stop playing Hunter, and I couldn't find one. And then I ended up like 16-1 from Diamond 8 to Legend with the deck. I dodged Warrior really well because apparently Warrior feasts on it. Really? But I just
I guess I could see that in some situations.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a big Hollow Hound, you can sometimes get through all their stuff. But they also just they have big things that hit you from hand. And you don't really have, I mean, you have the monkeys. You can kind of be really, if you can be really strategic with the monkeys, then you can kind of get there, but you just don't have that luxury a lot of the time. But if you don't queue into it, then it's not a problem. So I just did that, and I got to Legend on stream Monday night, and then I haven't really been playing a ton since then. I played a couple games with Glory had a Spooky Mage with Prison of Yogg-Saron that I played since that was my treat for myself.
Of course.
After I hit Legend, but I haven't really used that all that much. But Spooky Mage is fine. It's like 30 card Spooky Mage, so it's it's fine. But yeah, other than that, I ended up buying Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky from the Steam sale. And because I was taking advantage of the Steam sale to try to find games to play on the train, and a JRPG is kind of good for that because I don't have to worry about like when the train starts shaking back and forth. I don't have to worry about it like messing up a skill shot or whatever. So I'm like, I don't know, like 7-8 hours into that. I'm not a huge JRPG guy, but I like some of these types of games, and like I did like way too much analysis Like, because like the Trail series is really long. Like there's like 10 games and they're all like chronologically ordered. Like it's not like the Final Fantasy games. It's like one big long story. So it's like, well, where do you get in, right? Because it's been going since like the PSP days. So it's like, well, I watch like all these videos about like where do you start, you know? Because like like, you know, you can start with like the PSP games, you can start with like the ones that were like PS3, PS4 era. And everything's like, just start at the beginning. I'm like, fine, it's $10. I'll start at the beginning. If I hate it, then, you know, I'll figure it out. But I kind of fell in love with it. So, yeah, I guess this is going to be my life for the next like 3 years, because it's just like this series of like 40 to 80 hour JRPGs, one after another. But, you know, I've got nothing but time in the train.
This sounds like fate for video games. For those anime fans out there, the Fate franchise is notorious for just the number of like games, anime, all that out there. But you know, it's like, oh well, where do we even start? Because they jump around in the timeline all over the place, and sometimes it even, I think, branches off and stuff. It's like, it's insane series.
Yeah, I mean, this one is, I think one of the videos described it more like One Piece, where it's just like this really like never ending saga, where it's because it's not even they don't even really jump around the timeline. I guess there's like two sets of games that are kind of concurrent, and then they converge at a certain point. But like, it's just like every game like goes into the next, and they all set up the next one, and like the last game in the series just came out like last week. So I've got a while before it'll be on sale by the time I get to that one, I'm sure. But
so it's more I promise the payoff is worth the 500 episodes to get there.
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like I'm starting with like Lost on season 1, right? And except that hopefully the payoff is a little bit better than Lost. But yeah, but I'm like 7 or 8 hours into it, and it's got me pretty good. So, you know, I'm glad that at least it's getting me from the beginning, because like, you know, if it's like this, you know, 400 hour series and it's not getting me from the beginning, then I'm not sticking with it. But I guess I'm a Trails guy now. I don't know. But how was your week?
I've been playing Hearthstone, it's mostly been Twist. I dabble a little briefly into BGs to see quests, and I'll maybe play a little bit more than that. I do like quests and BGs, but honestly, it's mostly been like playing the Miracle Rogue that I built, that I guess is different than the one that other people landed on, where I've got all the combo cards, right? And so you can have the rhyme spinners. So that's kind of fun to do every once in a while. And then the Hunter actually in Twist is pretty solid. It's, you know, a little bit different because you got mountain bears. Yep. It's like weird how anti-aggro in a way Hunter is in Twist, where it's like, well, if they don't quite kill you fast enough, you can slow them down just enough, then, you know, you recruit out like a mountain bear or a hollow hound, and like game over, right? It's like hollow hound is just that powerful, and mountain bear as well. Often it's like the mountain bear buys you enough time for the hollow hound to just like end the game as soon as they see it hit the board, because you know, maybe they've still been taking value trades and stuff into the bear summons the cubs, but then the hound comes down. It's just like, that's it. Cool thing in the wild version, you've got the dual class legendary, where you either give beasts in your deck +1/+1, or it becomes a 3/3 copy of one. So either you like become a copy of a mountain bear or a hound, or you just play it like a Keleseth and are perfectly happy to have, you know, 4/7 hollow hounds. So
yeah. So DC played that against me right before I perpetual flamed his entire board. So yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, doesn't always get there. I certainly think, you know, it's still tough when major board swings happen like that. But and Glug can be, of course, hard to deal with.
Well, Hollow Hound is pretty good if you've got the Hollow Hound buffed up enough. You can just kind of swing into one of the heads and kill the head.
Depends on if they're able to make like immediate trades to buff the Glug or not.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so been messing around a little bit in Twist. I have been playing a very old game, actually, Life is Strange, on account of the Blizzlet community game or like video game club, and I will have plenty to talk about at our it's like a book club but for video games basically. So when we have that night, I have some good things to say and some major gripes that probably stem largely from a background of playing like visual novels.
Mhm.
I like thought there would be more of a web of decisions and like cause and effect stuff when it's
It's a puzzle
like
game,
the stuff.
basically.
There's much more subtle variations in what happens, right? There's
Yeah.
no big changes in the actual core of the plot based on the decisions you make. Unlike, if I'm doing an otome game or like a visual novel with like romantic paths, by the very nature, if you end up with different people, then the game is very different. And I just sort of, I guess I always thought Life is Strange was a little bit more like that, more like Detroit Become Human kind of thing.
Mhm.
Then no, there's a core narrative and all the things you do have impact, but they're like really subtle impact.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's other things, but so I finished that. I still really like the game, of course. I mean, it has.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you can have.
you can have
as your main
criticism for
character.
things that you like. I mean, that's
Exactly. So that was fun. Still been playing Diablo. I finally decided to try out switching my build to an actual power build, and go figure, it's better.
Yeah. I ended up convincing Maureen to do the same thing, and she's like, because like she's playing a necromancer, and the build that she was playing was a summoner build, and I had her switch to something else after I watched a video.
Sure.
She's like, this is better, but I miss my friends.
Yeah. I mean, it was like that for me too with the rogue. It's like, this is better, but I miss like doing my own thing. Like I was doing a penetrating shot range build, and I switched to twisting knives, which just seems like the objective best way to do rogue. I think there's maybe some variations within twisting knives, but
you kind of get to a point with all the builds where you can't really deck build anymore, and you kind of just need to pick one of the ones that's there in order to be able to get to a certain point to have enough damage. Yeah, like I was kind of rolling my own, and then I finally looked up the Realized Shards build, like, oh, so I just run into the middle of this group of things and I press a bunch of buttons and everything dies. I like this a little bit better. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, well, and there's this weirdness of like, the game leads you to believe that you're like gonna have one of each kind of skill, and then it's like, oh no, you don't have to have an ultimate. Or actually, when you get to like the true end game version of this build, you don't have a basic skill anymore. For this rogue build, and I'm just like, that's weird.
Well, that was like in Diablo 3 when you had like the basic skill set like made you choose one of each type, and then there was like an advanced setting that's like, oh, you can just pick whatever, and then it's like, oh, you mean I can have more than one of this type of skill, and I don't need to have any of these? Oh, okay, well then I don't want armor on my mage or whatever it is, and then everything opens up. But it's
so like rogues inevitably have like just multiple mobility skills and forego an ultimate, because the ultimates just seem kind of not worth it. I think the one exception is like, I think there's a death trap build, but that's like all about that as your source of damage. But largely it's like you go super mobility and then your core skill is your source of damage. But anyway, not a Diablo podcast. We have
not yet, at least.
We've had a bunch of exciting reveals. I'm particularly excited about the Death Knight cards that we've seen. We are not going to cover everything. We're going to do it kind of in like packages and definitely do the legendaries. But there's also a little bit of news before we get into that. So why don't you take us away?
Let's do that.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So we have quests back in BGs. So that was part of like a minor patch that happened this week on Tuesday. Those got re-enabled. And so if for those of you who are newer to Battlegrounds and didn't play with them the last time, quests pop up on turn 4, and then there is an objective, and then there's a reward. So the quest will be something like spend 25 gold, destroy 16 enemy minions, and some of them are more difficult than others. Usually there's 3 of them that are going in order from easiest to most difficult. And then there was a reward that will change the way that you play. Like you can make a minion temporarily golden until the next turn, or every time you buy a minion give the shop +1/+1, whatever it happens to be. So there's, that was kind of it's a mechanic that I think a lot of people liked, and it went away at the beginning of the Lich King season, the Lich King Battleground season. So this is coming back just until the next Battleground, I believe until the next Battlegrounds patch, or it might just be until the next major patch. I'm actually not sure how long it's going to last. But it's here now, so yeah.
I feel like previous times these like bringing back old mechanics has been until the next big patch, but
it says here until the next Battleground season. So this is going to go past the next patch into probably September would be when we get the new Battleground season. So Great. 2 months. Yep. And so they've introduced 3 new quests. Burn the Evidence, which is sell 9 minions. Pressure the Authorities, which is get your warband to 30 total attack and round up the suspects, which is destroy 18 enemy minions. And they brought back a number of returning quests, which have some different requirements. They did remove Unmask the Culprit, which is lose or tie 3 combats, because this is not TFT and there are no lose streaks in Battlegrounds. And then there's a number of new quest rewards that they brought in. Icicle, which is avenge 1, give a minion in your hand +3 attack. Soul Pact, after you play a minion, give other minions of the same type +1/+1. Sturdy Shard, at the end of your turn, give your minions without taunt +1/+2 for each taunt minion you control. Doppelganger's Locket, after each combat, discover a non-golden minion from your last opponent's warband. It keeps any enchantments that it has. Timeline Acceleration, at the start of your turn, get 2 accelerators that transform a minion into one from its tier higher. I would assume that's permanent. Invigorating Conch, when you buy a minion, give its stats to a random friendly minion. Boom Squad, avenge 3, deal 10 damage to the highest health enemy minion. Divine Armor, at the end of your turn, give the leftmost minion in your hand +6/+6 and Divine Shield. Map of the Unknown, after you play a minion of a type you don't control, give a friendly minion of each type +2/+1. Blood-Soaked Tome, minions in Bob's Tavern cost 2 gold with a dev comment. This will be one of our rarer rewards. One would hope so. Scepter of Guidance, Bob's Tavern always offers 2 of whatever type it tells you when refreshed. Transmogrification, at the end of your turn, set your lowest health minion stats equal to your highest health minion stats. And Endless Blood Moons, your blood gems give an extra +2/+2 at the start of your turn, add 2 to your hand. Now, some of these are obviously going to only be available in certain lobbies where certain minion types are present. Like, obviously, Endless Blood Moon will only be available in ones where they're Quilboar. Which makes sense, but that's a little bit of flexibility that I don't think they had the last time around. And there's also a bunch of returning rewards that I'm not going to enumerate because there's a lot of them. But they did remove the 3 that they removed were Teal, Tiger, Sapphire, which are minions in Bob's Tavern, have +1/+1 for each time it was refreshed this turn. Staff of Origination, start a combat, give your minions +12/+12, and Blood Goblet, at the end of your turn, give your rightmost minion attack equal to your missing health. So those are gone. But the rest of them are still there, including Partner in Crime. I've already seen on Swaybay's stream, she got a Partner in Crime lobby. Of course, she was dancing Daryl, and the buddies have not necessarily been updated since all of the heroes have been reworked. Because he wants you to sell things, and I don't think that works quite as well with the way that Daryl works now, but that's neither here nor there. but yeah, so quests are there. There's already been an adjustment. So there was in the known issues, burn the evidence and transmogrification have been removed from their pools to address power and play experience outliers. So two of the new one of the new quests and one of the new quest rewards already gone. So ignore everything I said about those a minute ago, but other than that, those are good, and I think that's been well received along with the Battlegrounds patch that we got in the last balance update. So but quests are always fun. Like if you haven't played Battlegrounds for a while, try it with quests. It does change the way that the games play out a lot. I don't know if you said you got to play a couple of games, right? Like I've also done just like a couple of games, but
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, the strength of quests is also at times the weakness of quests, right? It balances broadly because the hero doesn't matter as much when you can, build around a quest reward. But that also then means the heroes don't matter as much. And so, I don't know how much this is true this time around, but previously it was almost like sometimes the bad heroes just became good strictly because you got more life and could be greedier with what quest you picked, right? Make sure you take the really snowbally quest. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. I'll really liked quests last time. I expect I will enjoy them again this time. There are so many things to play, so I don't know how much BGs I'll be doing this time around, but it's definitely pulled me in, the fact that quests are back.
yeah, and I guess it's worth mentioning that the higher armor heroes are also given lower quest completion requirements, because each one of the quests has a range of how many you need to do, and generally the higher armor heroes, which are the worst heroes, have lower quest completion requirements. So like that sometimes causes people to pick the bad heroes and ignore the hero power just because the quest is easier to complete. So that's kind of a weird dynamic, but it does at least like give you different ways to play every game, or give you a different win condition to go for, depending on what you hit, and it gives you an extra piece to play around, which I think is makes it a lot more interesting. This is speaking as someone who is not a heavy duty Battlegrounds player, obviously, but that's what's going on with BGs. We also the Fire Festival has started, so there are both Battlegrounds and standard quests for this one. 3 of the rewards are packs, and then there is a Battlegrounds Togwaggle portrait and a standard, I believe it's Demon Hunter, at the very end of it. As usual, if you play a lot, you can ignore the quests. But also the quest will kind of accelerate things. But I believe you have until the next patch comes out in the beginning of next month to finish all the Fire Festival stuff. So it's a longer event than normal. But do just if you are interested in either of the cosmetics, then do focus on getting that done, or at least like not going into the new expansion is coming, so I'm not going to play as much. Make sure to clear those stuff out, just to make sure that you're aware of that. We also got a couple of skins, one new skin and one returning skin in the shop. We got Daring Fireheart is, and I didn't put the picture of this into the so we're gonna have to use Theater of the Mind for the folks on the stream. But Daring Fireheart is the new skin that's in the shop for Shaman. So Instructor Fireheart, but with more fire. So
Cool.
we'll take it. And then Robin Hood Rexar is returning to the shop, and you can buy that with gold. So you can pay 1,000 gold for that if you don't have that already. So that's that. And then We also, this was not necessarily something that was just implemented, but it was something that wasn't necessarily known, and it could be relevant, because somebody reported it actually as a bug. So minions that are forced to attack, and the one that's in this example is Kobold Barbarian, which is a warrior minion that says at the start of your turn, attack a random enemy. Those used to be their attack for the turn, and it is now an extra attack. So it used to be that Kobold Barbarian would attack something at the start of the turn. If it lived, then it was just sitting there. Now, if it lives through that attack, it can attack for real.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, I guess that also means, I mean, this is older card that in its format, I don't know how much is used, but, Imprisoned Felon Law, which was the, 2 mana, 5/4, goes dormant for, 2 turns, and when it awakens, immediately attacks something. So if you get that effect to trigger, it'll still have Summoning Sickness, but if you say give it rush somehow, then it can rush in as well.
Yep.
So you could roll face and then still rush into something. That's cool.
Yeah. So that's just something it doesn't really come up that often. And like a lot of the ones that you would think that, like Blackwater Behemoth is kind of the only one that we have in standard right now, but that's at the end of the turn anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Right. Yeah.
So, and then it does that after everything else. So, I guess we kind of should have known that was happening because of Blackwater Behemoth, but I don't even know if it follows the same rules or not. So, I don't know. This is it's a very corner case. But, and in any event, that's something that just to be aware of. But yeah, so that's really it for news. The vote, Choose a Titan week 2 is voting has started. So if you haven't voted again, you have to vote each week. Right. do your voting again. Sargeras did make it through to the second round, just saying. So, you take from that what you will, but that is that. So so just a tiny bit of tournament news, and then we can start talking about some cards.
It's the grand tournament.
So Community Gaming is doing another tournament that's over with Rain, I believe. It's their Series 13 signups on July 20th, starting at 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Check-in begins 1 hour before. There's going to be $150 worth of prizes split amongst the top 4, with HS Replay subscriptions once again for the finalists. There's also going to be 2 code giveaways. One mega bundle, not Titans, I feel like it says here. That doesn't seem.
I would assume it's Titans. I don't know.
I don't know. In the notes it says not Titans. I don't know why it says that, but between tournament players and a mini set among viewers. Okay. So it is an older expansion, according to Rain, who's in the chat. Thank you. And the format is going to be usual single elimination conquest, best of 3, 1 ban, open deck lists, and they're submitted via a Yay Tiers or Donkey link when you register, and can be edited until the event starts. Going to be on the Americas server. Still, if you're looking to dip into competitive, this is more of a lower stakes way of doing that. I mean, with no open cups going on, this is sort of the main way you can do that, right, on a consistent basis, is these community gaming series. So really awesome that Rain has kind of kept the open cup spirit going in lieu of any actual official open cups, now that everything is over to ladder.
Yeah. And one other thing that I forgot to put on the show notes, but we should mention, is that Clark Hellscream is doing a second version of the Hellscream Cup. and this one is going to be open registration. So if you were interested in what, you know, when Clark came on a couple weeks ago, you can go listen to that episode to hear about that tournament. If you are interested in playing in something like that, go over to his his Twitter account, which is Clark Hellscream, and he'll have he's tweeting about it like every 15 minutes. So you'll just go to his Twitter account and you'll see the sign up information. That I believe is going to be the weekend of July 22nd, which is not this coming week. It's probably next weekend by the time you're hearing this on the podcast. But if you're watching the stream, it's weekend after. It's not this weekend, but next weekend. So so you'll want to go get signed up for that, and that will be a fun event. I believe there's a ban list, and then there's also like 5 neutrals that are required to be in every deck. I don't remember what all of them are, but I know Prison of Yogg-Saron was one of them. So, you know, do with that what you will. But if you're of the deck building sort and you are interested in participating in something like that, go sign up. It'll be fun. But that's gonna do it. So why don't we talk about some new cards, because we did get quite a few of them. You're muted, Earl.
Last episode, which was even more recent than usual. It was on Saturday. But yeah, I think most exciting. A new
Edo, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
There
there we
were
go.
power tools going on.
No worries.
Or at least I think so. Someone is like mowing the lawn or something nearby.
Okay.
So we have had a ton of cards revealed since the last time we were with you all, even though that was more recently than usual. And most exciting is this new sort of, I guess we would say, class mechanic or something for Death Knight. They've introduced a particular thing called Plagues, which you shuffle into the opponent's deck. And there is one for each rune type. There's a Plague of Blood, Plague of Frost, an Unholy Plague. I probably can't read, and I'm reading those backwards. But yeah, Blood Plague, Frost Plague, Unholy Plague. All of them are cast when drawn and deal 2 damage when they're drawn. And then the Blood one restores 2 health to the enemy hero, the person who put the plagues in your deck. The Frost Plague makes the next card you play cost 1 more, and the Unholy Plague summons a 2/2 undead for your opponent. So does good stuff for the person that shuffled the plagues in, and bad stuff to the person who is drawing them. And there's a bunch of these cards that shuffle them in. Honestly, kind of more than I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the entire Death Knight set. I mean, most of the and even like some of the cards that don't say plague on them interact with the plagues somewhat, especially when you read the card correctly. But yeah, it's there's like most of it is revolving around the plagues. And yeah, like Helya is the one that is the new legendary that got introduced, which is 4 mana 4/4 with 1 unholy rune, battlecry. Shuffle all 3 plagues into your opponent's deck. Plagues they draw this game are unending. So what that means, unending, it means that after they draw it, another one will get shuffled back into their deck. And that's a rest of the game effect.
Yep.
So not just while Helya's on the board. So now, before you get any ideas, we've seen this kind of effect before with like Hakar the Soul Flare, where if they draw through to fatigue, they're not just going to draw infinitely and die. They're going to draw all the plagues that started in their deck when they started drawing until their deck is empty. They'll take fatigue for the next one, for however much, like, so if you made them draw 2, they'd take 2 fatigue, and then it would everything's gonna proc, and if they're still alive after that, then it will shuffle copies of everything that procced back into their deck afterwards. So there is a respite, but that's damage that's going to add up very quickly.
Yeah. And Helia, unlike Hakar, does not have a built-in multiplying factor. So
Right.
basically every time you draw one of these plagues from Helia, it will shuffle itself back into the deck, but it does not, shuffle 2 in the way that Hakar did. So it's not getting worse from just Helia, but you basically have a Blood, a Frost, and an Unholy Plague in your deck that will never go away unless you can Steam Cleaner or something to get rid of them. So pretty powerful on its own. I think what's most interesting about Helia, to me anyway, as a deck builder, is that it is single Unholy rune. So there is more of an Unholy focus in the runes for Death Knight. I think they do kind of want to switch up what runes they're showing some love, just to make sure that there's interesting combinations for people to build with. And, finally starting to push away from triple Unholy, triple Blood, triple Frost, which has been sort of the focus for a while. They seem to be leaning into double Unholy Frost for plagues on this one, I think, in terms of if you're just going to run all the things to go with this strategy. But it's very notable that Helia and a couple other of the plague cards are single Unholy. The Frost stuff is single Frost because it kind of has to be. So you could theoretically go Rainbow and just have access to fewer of the plague things, but get some of the sustain out of Blood. You could also opt to forego some of the Frost stuff, have, again, a bit fewer plague cards, but go for double Unholy plus single Blood. Again, maybe go for a little more of that sustain, get access to things like No Muncher, and I don't know, maybe the Blood weapons. Like Blood has some of the better weapons.
Blood Boil is Blood Boil 1 or 2?
Blood Boil is 2. So there's no way to go and get sort of the best plague stuff, which is double Unholy, and also get the best Blood stuff. But yeah, you still get Screaming Banshee, you still get No Muncher. One Blood does give you some pretty significant stuff.
Yeah. And you get the removal spells like Asphyxiate and Obliterate and stuff like that too, I think. Yeah.
Asphyxiate is 2, but Obliterate is 1.
Obliterate's 1, yeah.
Yeah. So I expect most people, at least at the start, are going to go with sort of the way that they're pushing, which is double Unholy, 1 Frost. We'll see kind of how things shape up. I think it'll be sort of meta-dependent whether the sustain of Blood is more important or the card draw of Frost. And honestly, if you're shuffling something into the opponent's deck that makes them take damage whenever it happens, probably having a rune that gives you direct damage to face is not such a bad thing.
Yeah. And I mean, like, there's, we have some synergy cards too. Like there's Chain Guardian that costs 1 less for each plague shuffled into the enemy deck. That's 1 Unholy. That seems kind of just like a no-brainer. If you're going to do this, you may as well get a free 8/5 Rush Reborn. That seems pretty good. Tomb Trader is Frost and Unholy, which is destroy a plague in your opponent's deck to deal 3 damage to all enemy minions. So that's kind of like the blow up a Soul Fragment card from the Soul Fragment decks. Disease Faldir is the one double Unholy, which is Death Rattle, shuffle 2 random plagues to your opponent's deck. So it's a 3/2 undead for 2 mana. That seems like something you like, again, like whenever you're doing this, and we've seen this with Bomb Warrior, like you generally want as many as possible to get shuffled in to start getting that going, right? So I mean, this might even be a justification to run like the Discover and Unholy rune card. I forget what the name of it is because nobody's ever played it, but that might be a justification to run that to get more Helias, right? Because then if you're shuffling 3 more plagues in, or you get more distress called ears, right? Like that might just work.
It has occasionally made its way into the Unholy decks, I think briefly, but yeah, this does seem like the sort of thing where just the more plague stuff you can get, the better. It's very much along the veins of the Demon Hunter relics, where it's just like any extras you can discover are ideal. And we'll have to see where it lands in terms of power, because it is less damage at once than bombs, but the number of these you can shuffle in is way higher.
Yeah.
And I expect all of these effects to be pretty frustrating in terms of like, I mean, I remember just how the Soul Fragment heal was a big deal in those decks, and to get like that sometimes from blood and random 2/2s off the Unholy thing, probably the most disruptive is going to be that random mana tax that sometimes is just going to happen at a really unfortunate time with the Frost plagues, and you're just not going to be able to do stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also going to be a win condition against some of the decks that don't have a win condition, right? Like you have inevitability against something like a Control Priest, assuming that Control Priest doesn't get an actual win condition, like something that's just going to like try to grind you out into fatigue, or like Blood Death Knight or whatever. Like that's something that you can do. Like, again, those can run Steam Cleaner, but they can only Steam Cleaner once, so you can get more. They can't really wait forever, right? And you can just start shuffling more in, and you only have to have played the legendary once in order to make them unending and keep them shuffling in.
Right.
Yeah.
Helio makes your plagues unending forever, regardless of where they come from. So
yeah. And then, I mean, there's a one mana 1/3 weapon that shuffles a plague in after your opponent after you attack. I think that seems like one that you might be able to cut if you're trying to get the size of the deck down, because usually like that was like the goblin in the goblin mech in Bomb Warrior that ended up getting cut, right? Because we just kind of went down to like Wrench Caliber.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's no Wrench Caliber in the sense that Wrench Caliber, like, I mean, you were a warrior, so you actively like gave +1/+1 to the weapon, so it went from dealing 3 damage to dealing 4 damage, right? And so you got a significant amount of damage. Being a 1/3 weapon, you're not getting damage out of the swings, but it's very cheap. The fact that it is 1 mana,
yeah, you just kind of start from the get-go.
Sort of a big deal. I mean, I almost wonder if it's to the point where maybe you run like a rune forging, right? Just to like draw it.
Yeah.
Even if you do not spend a corpse, you draw it, play it on turn 2. Just
or an
to
instrument
be able to
tech,
get those started.
Yeah, I guess you don't need to run instrument tech if you're running rune forging, but yeah.
Yeah, it depends whether you like care about the cost, or instrument tech gives you a corpse. And there's this removal spell, Down with the Ship, that's 1 frost, 1 unholy, 2 mana, deal 3 damage to a minion. If it dies, shuffle 2 random plagues into your opponent's deck. I mean, we will see, but I almost feel like something is going to have to take a hit in terms of the quantity of plagues that are getting shuffled in, because as it stands, I feel like if you run all the stuff, this is going to add up really fast.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the bombs did 5, right? So these are doing 2.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a little bit better from that regard, but it's going to be a lot of those, and it's going to, and it's going to be hard to navigate. And like that was always kind of, and people like, I will say that people did not like Bomb Warrior as an archetype in general. Like there was a lot of negative, especially at first, right? There was a lot of negative feels towards the Bomb Warrior. But I mean, that was because you were just taking 5 out of nowhere, and sometimes multiples. And like, you can do like the mental tricks of like, okay, well, keep track of how many they shuffled in and subtract that for your life total, and that's how much life you actually have, and then think about that. But that doesn't matter like on day 1 when you're just getting plague shuffled in, and clearly they want people to do this, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, hey, I want to do this. I mean, it looks very powerful, and it is going to be a little Kelasethi. The games where you get that legendary on curve, it are going to be nuts. Right? Because, it's one thing to shuffle in this many. I sort of see why there needs to be this density when they're not unending. But once you flip that switch to the point that you have this many shuffle effects and they're unending, I mean, it's just a whole different ball game. Like it becomes this overwhelming tide, I think, very quickly. Again, still it's theory crafting, could totally be wrong, but just my impression is like it's going to be rough when someone like plays Helia on curve and you're just like, oh no, here we go. Because there's still all the like, there's the location to give something reborn, which you could do on the Death Rattle one that shuffles in. If you run
You have
any
Death
of,
Growl.
like, yeah, exactly. There's like all these Death Rattle support things that you can just like be running Chill Fallen Baron and the Plague Death Rattle shuffle in. It'll be interesting to see like how much defensive stuff you really want to add, or whether you go in on something like the Death Rattle things to make that even better. Do you run a Yodel or whatever, or is it just now you've got the Frost Burn package, right? Of you've got Howling Blast and you've got the Primus, right, which we talked about last week, who is runeless, but I mentioned how the Primus plus Howling Blast could be a good combo, and that's something that easily slots into this.
Yeah, and I mean you could still run like Glacial Advance too. Is that 2 Frost or is that 1 Frost? I forgot.
I believe it's 1.
Yeah, and I mean you probably want the Frost stuff anyway, just to like freezing is also some good, just like protecting your face to give this time. Like Icy Touch is a thing you might just like run. The freeze from Howling Blast might be more relevant than it has been in the past. You might even go so far as to run something like Might of Menethil. I think that might be 2 Frost. I forget. Like I know what's 3. I can never remember what's 1 or 2 because it's never been relevant before.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think there's a world where this replaces Frost, like replaces Triple Frost in the metagame, because it will, it won't have the power freezes of Might of Menethil or Frostworm's Fury, but it will still have direct damage cards in the form of Frost. It'll still have card draw in the form of drawing Frost cards, maybe even to the point that you don't run down to the ship this shadow spell. You like focus on the minion shuffle in things, and then have your Frost stuff, right? If you build a deck like this that only has Frost spells, you still get, oh no, I guess she's 2. The one who draws you two spells.
Yeah,
and deals 2 to everything.
Yeah, she's gonna be a little bit more all in. But I mean,
but even so, like,
but you probably run Frost Strike. You probably just get her, right? Like,
Frost Strike is double. All of the discover
Frost Strike's double
of a
also,
particular rune are doubles, right? So
but she'll discover Frost Strike half the time anyway. It doesn't matter.
That's true. I mean, because this is the thing, right? You'll have Nerubian Vizier. You'll have the double unholy rune discover thing, right? You'll probably have School Teacher. I mean, we'll see, right? It won't be 4-set meta anymore, so we'll see how powerful discover is in 5-set.
Yeah,
but
I mean, we know what all the Death Knight cards are, and like all the stuff we got, most of it says Plague on it. Yeah. So I mean, like, are you not gonna? You'll want. It's not like the pool got worse for you if you're playing this deck specifically. If you're playing Blood Death Knight, it might have gotten worse for you, because you may not necessarily want to just shuffle in like 1 or 2 plagues. But if you're playing this deck, then the pool is what it is plus a bunch of plague cards. So that's fine.
I think there's only 3 new spells for Death Knight.
Yeah.
So
there's Down with the Ship. And then the other 2, right? I think everything else is minions. So I guess we can talk about. We'll skip Eulogizer for a second, but Frozen Over is also another really interesting one in this context. That Dawn in the Discord was describing this as Teemo from Legends of Runeterra, which is where he puts puff caps on, and then he has all kinds of cards to make both players draw to get them out. So this is it's a 1 Frost Rune 2 mana Frost spell. Both players draw 2 cards. Your opponent cannot play them next turn. So it's interesting just in terms of like cheap draw. You could end up, maybe burning a card from your opponent, maybe not. Or if you have a bunch of plagues in your opponent's deck and you want to get them out, this is one way to do it, especially if you're on ending already. It gets you drawing a little bit more towards it. So it doesn't say Plague on the card, but it works pretty well in that deck.
And that secondary effect is a big deal. The major drawback of a card like this would be that against something more aggressive, that you're giving them cards to kill you with. But the fact that they can't play them immediately, and they might be drawing, say, Blood Plagues that heal you, I think is more impactful than it may seem at first glance.
Yeah. And I mean, we played Research Project way back when. Like,
Sure,
some decks
yeah.
did. Like, certainly decks that cared about drawing through their deck would play Research Project.
Mazaki Mage.
Yeah, exactly. So like, it's not the worst thing in the world to give your opponent 2 cards. You generally don't want to do it, but there are also reasons to do it.
Right.
But at least it's not like a full-on fatigue deck to do that. The other spell that we got was Northern Navigation, which is a 2-mana 1 Frost Rune Frost spell. Discover a spell from your deck. If it's a Frost spell, freeze a random enemy minion. So I guess you could still run this in the Plague deck if you wanted to get more down with the ships, or you wanted to get more Frozen Overs, right?
Yeah,
like, you just wouldn't freeze something.
It's Shadow Visions with occasional, or not Shadow Visions.
It's Thrive in the Shadows.
Yeah, Thrive in the Shadows.
I guess it's not a
with
copy.
occasional additional upside.
Yeah. So it's not a copy, right? But it still gets it out if that's something you want to do. You might not run it, but it's something at least, like, it gives you more options. If you are playing like the pure burn Frost deck, then you can at least like do that, and that's something you can do also. The last card we have for Death Knight is the Forge card, which is Eulogizer, Battle Cry. Spend 3 corpses to deal 3 damage. Forge, gain them instead. It's a 3-mana 3/3 undead. So Edel, you were looking at this and doing some scheming earlier. So before this,
kind of. I just find this one interesting because this is a Forge card that I look at and I'm like, there are decks where you run this. It's runeless, so any Death Knight can run it, and it's a good effect, right? Deal 3 damage. It can go face. It can go minions. Whatever. Forge, you gain 3 corpses. I mean, Blood is very happy to say, I'll Forge on 2, have a 3-mana 3/3 removal that gives me 3 corpses on 3. Like, that's nuts. But then if I'm a Rainbow, I never want to Forge this because I need corpse spenders, for crying out loud. So it's kind of weird and cool how it's sort of like almost deck dependent. Like, do you very much prefer to play this Forged or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that it's flexible that way, and that you won't accidentally Forge it. Like, Corrupt would sometimes be that way, where you might want to play like the uncorrupted version or whatever, or you'd want to corrupt it and you couldn't. Like, this is it's flexible in that way. I mean, same thing with Infuse too, right? Like, I mean, Infuse is generally a strict upgrade. This actually has 2 modes, and you can decide which one you want to use, and that's pretty cool.
But then we got a lot of neutrals with some very particularly strange neutral legendaries that we have to talk about. And we're going to start with perhaps, I was going to say perhaps the strangest, but there's another one that's also pretty weird.
They're all kind of wacky in their own ways. I think maybe the Forge one is a little bit less wacky, but they're all kind of like out there. Yeah.
The Forge one feels sort of the most normal. I would, but yeah. So this one, Kolagharn, 8 mana 6/10 rush. Whenever this attacks a minion, put it into your hand. That means put the minion that Kolagharn is attacking, put that minion into your hand. Death Rattle, move any in your hand to your opponents. So basically, if you play Kolagharn, you attack into an enemy minion, let's say it's a Hollow Hound, you put that Hollow Hound into your hand. If they have a removal spell to kill Kolagharn, it will then go over to their hand. So you've effectively sapped their minion. If they don't kill this, or say you somehow mana cheat Kolagharn into play by whatever means, then as long as you play whatever you steal, in this example, Hollowhound, before they kill Kolagharn, it's not going to go back. So this is a bananas weird effect that we have like never seen its like before, and I honestly don't know how to evaluate this.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's weird about it is that it doesn't actually take damage when it attacks, right? Because the thing gets yeeted off the board before the damage is assigned, so it just immediately removes the minion from the board. It's going to be interesting to see if this ever gets used as a tech card for anything, like if the Whomper deck were to come back, right? Like anything or like anything that involves resurrecting, right? Or not even the Death Whomper, but like the Warlock, right? With like Infantry Reanimator and stuff like that. Like if you wanted to be able to respond to like a Drykthyr or a Thaddeus hitting the board, like you could play this and get it off the board and then it can't get reanimated. Like that's a thing that you could do, assuming that you can play that before this dies, which against those decks, I don't know if that's a fair statement or not, but I mean, other than this is a Druid card because it costs 8, I don't know really when you're playing this. I mean, aside from like a shaman evolving into it occasionally, which is certainly going to be a thing.
Yeah, well, and there's also a 7-drop Death Rattle that its Death Rattle is summon an 8-drop. So
oh yeah,
or at least I believe it.
There is, yeah, it's the mech, yeah.
So people are gonna maybe discover that mech in mech decks, or maybe there'll be some kind of Death Rattle deck that then plays that, and sometimes they'll hit this because it costs 8. I don't know how big our pool of 8s is, but yeah, this is going to show up and it's going to be weird.
Yeah. Oh, the Priest Legendary can discover it too, right? Because the Priest Titan can get it. So.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Priest might just run this. I feel
like
it's the
in
kind
ETC
of thing
probably. Yeah, that seems like it might go in ETC. I don't know if it would go in the main deck, but yeah.
Yeah, it depends like how slow things are, but I mean, this can attack someone's Titan and put it in your hand, and yeah. If Titans is gonna be a format that continues this trend of like keeping things board based and slower, then this is exactly the kind of card that you might be interested in, where it's like, oh yeah, I removed your big thing, and now I have this still 6/10 because it didn't take any damage.
Right.
That you have to deal with, or it's going to keep booping your minions, right? And putting them into the opponent's hand, and then they get to just start playing stuff. Like it's so bizarre how just like if it gets to stick around for a turn, they're just going to start playing your stuff against you.
Yeah, and I guess we're not going to talk about these neutrals, but there's a couple of neutrals that look like they're Silence Priesty. Like there's a 4-mana 7/7 taunt can't attack, and then like a 3-mana 4/5 that gets destroyed whenever you draw your second card in the turn. And like this seems fine if you were to play it, remove something, and then Whispers of the Deep Pit so that the Death Rattle can't go off, right? Like deal 6 to the board. You can't have that card in your hand permanently. Like I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it, and that Silence Priest probably does not want an 8-drop, but
probably.
It may not even be a deck for all I know, but that was just like a fever dream that Magesa and I were having in Discord when we saw some of these neutrals revealed. But yeah, it's weird to see. It's weird to think about where this is going to go, and I'm not sure where. Other than Druid, because Druid's just going to run every card that costs 8 or more. But we'll have to see. But we also have a number of mech synergies, and we'll get into the other mechs, but. The legendary mech that we got is Flame Behemoth, which is a 6-mana 4/5 mech with Battle Cry. Get 2 random magnetic mechs, they cost 2 less.
Is this a Battlegrounds card?
I know, right? It seems like a Battlegrounds card, but
it feels like a Battlegrounds card that has leaked into Standard, just because BG is recently the thing with mechs is all about magnetic stuff, and it seems like they're definitely pushing that as sort of the interesting thing that mechs can do. So getting to random magnetic mechs, there are a bunch more in this set, in addition to the ones that they put in core. A 6 mana 4/5 is not like the stats you love to see, but getting 2 mechs that are 2 cheaper is also a big deal. I don't know if this is a card that mech decks are going to run or just one they're going to end up finding,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's worth keeping in mind that the average cost of magnetic mechs is fairly low,
Mhm.
right? Like we're talking, well, I guess it's not that low, but it's generally like 3 to 4 mana, right?
Uh-huh.
So if you're playing this on like not on 6, but like on 8 or 9, then you can just magnetize both those mechs onto it immediately. Right? And this
Right.
is probably
Sure.
like the kind of card that you're going to like if you're playing this in a mech deck, you're probably saving this for when your board gets wiped anyway, right?
Mhm.
So you're probably not necessarily playing it on curve, but you might hold on to it for reload, and then being able to throw like let's say a Bronze Gatekeeper for 1 and like a Replicating Menace for 2 or a War Gear for 3, right? So like if you were to get like a 3-cost magnetic and then a War Gear, then that's going to be 4 mana, so that's like 10, right?
Wait, Wicked, isn't there a Paladin mag? No. We still need to see
Yeah.
the magnetic cards, but there's
The
going to
Paladin,
be some
the
there's
Paladin
going to be
mech,
some interesting magnetic effects
yeah,
that will pair with this.
yeah. The Paladin
Um,
magnetic mech that we've seen is Noble Minibot, which is the 2 mana 2/3 magnetic. After this attacks, give a random minion in your hand +1/+1. So that's
Okay,
not
yeah,
super
that
exciting.
is yeah, and that's
not
two,
not on
right?
the
So
turn
that'd
you're
be
playing
free.
it, at least. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be free. Yeah, that would be free. That's the only
there's a
one
number
that
of
would
them
be
that
free right now. Yeah.
There's also like a neutral that I guess is later in our list here because a number of them are neutrals that have been revealed right now.
Yeah.
But there's there's one that like gives you something with a random effect.
Oh, that's not magnetic itself.
Oh, it's
Battle Cry gives you a magnetic minion. Yeah.
There's a lot of magnetic stuff going on. It's going to be hard to keep track. But I sort of feel like this is in the vein of the Demon Hunter card that gives you 2 Outcast cards and makes them cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like sometimes it's a refill, sometimes it's just like value. You play it on curve a bunch of the time, but not all the time, and like its strength will be in the cheapness of the things that you can
Exactly.
hit, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So then we can move on to the even weirder one.
Yes, that was a brief interlude before we got to something truly bizarre.
And now for something completely different.
Yeah, Algalon the Observer, who I am familiar with by name because of Lore Master Eve, she mentioning this, but a 4 mana 4/4 battle cry, replace your hero power with Algalon's Vision. And Algalon's Vision is a 1 mana hero power that lets you look at the top card of your opponent's deck and choose whether or not to put it on the bottom of their deck. This is really bad.
Is it? I mean, it's not
so bad.
It depends, right? It depends on the context. Like, I could see this being like an ETC card, maybe, right? Like, I don't know. It's so weird, but like, I don't like, this is definitely like a niche effect. This is not the kind of thing. I mean, Thief Rogue will probably just throw it in because to be annoying. But other than that, like, I don't know that you necessarily want to run this all the time, but like, there could be some use cases where, like with Rin, right? where if you wanted to blow up a specific card, you wanted to try. Now you don't get to put a card on top of their deck. You get to see what's there, and it's like a reverse what was the scry weapon. I forget what the name of it is now because it was so bad, but
Sphere of Sapience.
Sphere of
the
Sapience,
weapon
thank you.
that
Yes,
you only played as a canary in the coal mine, like when something degenerate was happening, when you needed it to break Twig of the World Tree. that's why you played Sphere of Sapience.
Yeah.
Or you had such a degenerate combo that the only thing you cared about was as much consistency as possible. I think people played it in the Bird Mage deck.
Oh, not Turtle Mage.
The Prison deck.
Turtle Mage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, was it Turtle? Yeah.
Yeah. Turtle's a kind of a bird. It's an amphibious bird.
Whatever. Yes. The one true prison deck that we have had in Hearthstone. Yeah.
I mean, I would run it now to keep from drawing my King Crush before the turn before I play Faithful Companions. But
there's too many weapons you actually need to attack with in Hunter Wicket. This is okay. So I did think of one thing that people might mess around with before they realize that having a ping hero power is really good and they need corpses. But people are going to try this as a way of putting stuff that are not plagues on the bottom of their opponent's deck in the hopes that they will draw plagues.
I mean, sure, that's a thing you can do.
But it's just like the number of times that you are going to throw away a thing you either think you don't want the opponent to have, or it doesn't matter because they still have a good draw behind it and you've just wasted 1 mana. Like, I don't know. I do not see this being good except in some kind of ridiculously toxic meta where that effect is very important. Like, I don't think a healthy thing is happening if this effect is relevant.
So I guess, like, if I'm playing a deck like Control Priest that dies to, from hand damage. So, like, let's say that I'm playing against a Burn Mage and they've killed off an Egwin. And I guess this is a bad example because you can just draw another minion behind it. But, like, there's a legendary, and I'm blanking on, like, something that, like, let's say it's Kel'Thuzad, right? Like, I mean, we've been through that scenario where somebody, like, went to extraordinary lengths just to whirlpool my Kel'Thuzad, right? Like, I lose to Kel'Thuzad no matter what, right? So I want to make sure, like, the way I lose is Kel'Thuzad, and I want to make sure that they never draw Kel'Thuzad, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna look at I'm gonna spend that 1 mana instead of healing my face for 2, which I'm probably not doing all that much anyway. I'm going to go spend 1 mana every turn to go throw Kel'Thuzad onto the bottom of their deck, or if it's not Kel'Thuzad, I leave it there. Maybe that's a scenario, and that's why I say maybe it's an ETC card, but, like, you really need to hate a card to go here, right? Like, it's an interesting tech card in that way. Like, I'm glad that kind of counterplay exists if we have something that toxic, but you got to really hate that card to put this even in an ETC.
I mean, I guess there's an argument for just strict information, right? You know the top card of their deck as long as you pay 1 mana each turn. And if it's really bad, you can make it go away and hope that the next card is not so bad. And, you can, it's definitely meant for a control situation, right? Where you're like, okay, we've got to prevent the things that we're scared of, and you let the stuff sit there that you don't care about.
Yeah. And hope they don't have dredge cards in their deck. Like,
right. Yeah. And I would argue that, like, that's not a good state if that's an
this is Eater of
thing
Secrets
that's happening, right? Like, I worry about the existence of this and what it means for how the set may be being pushed and pushing the meta. We'll see.
Yeah.
I haven't seen. I mean, there's mechs, but mechs tend to be like snowbally aggro, not necessarily like.
It's not kill you on turn 5 type of aggro. It's
right,
make a
yeah.
It's make a big thing and dare you to remove it type of aggro.
Right. So yeah, I just don't know. We'll have to see. But
Yeah.
My first impression is that this card is awful.
Yeah, I think if we see this card, there's going to be good reason to be very upset. Either there is a very degenerate meta deck that this is trying to target, or there is some sort of degenerate, like, card removal combo or something like that this is enabling. And either way, I think if this is actually played, we're going to be very upset about something.
And the safety valve, at least for this being used in Priest, is they lose healing, which is already something that, weirdly enough, Priest doesn't have a massive amount of, barring, Behemoth plays with the finale spell to get more of them, right? Like,
or big cannibalizes. That would be the other. That's the other.
Yeah,
the other,
cannibalize for sure. But you've mentioned many times before on the show how recently, like, Priest runs out of healing to stuff, and Algalon means that if you have to be preventing enough damage via denying top decks to make up for the fact that you don't have a hero power that's healing you every turn.
Yep.
You have an extra mana because it is 1. And maybe that's a bigger deal than I'm imagining, but yeah.
Yeah, let's hope that this is the last time that we talk about this card. if we're talking about this card once the set's been released, there things have gone very wrong.
We have a much more fun final neutral legendary. Why don't you tell us about Ignis the Eternal Flame?
So Ignis the Eternal Flame is a 4-mana 2/4 neutral legendary with Battle Cry. If you've forged a card this game, craft a custom weapon. So for those of you who remember any of the Kazakuses, this is similar, where you're going to, the first step is you're going to choose your base weapon. And so that's either a 1-mana 2/2, a 5-mana 3/4, or a 10-mana 5/6. So then you get a keyword on it, or it's ability, but effectively it's a keyword. Poisonous, Lifesteal, Wind Fury, damages attacking adjacent minions. I wish we would just add the cleave keyword already. And your hero is immune while attacking. So any of those you get to choose. And then you get to pick a second ability that scales with the size of the weapon. So you get the smallest number if you pick the 1-mana 2/2. You get the biggest number if you pick the 10-mana 5/6. So after your hero attacks, summon a random 2/4 or 8 cost minion. Battle Cry, deal 2/4 or 6 damage. After your hero attacks, draw 1, 2, or 3 cards. Death Rattle, deal 1, 2, or 4 damage to all enemies. And after your hero attacks, gain 2, 4, or 8 armor. So you get to kind of roll whatever the weapon is that will serve you. I would imagine the 5-mana weapon is probably what you're going to go for a lot of the time, because 10 mana for a weapon, it needs to do you could get an 8-drop, but like a 10-mana weapon better be doing a lot for you, though I guess you do get to swing it 6 times, but the game's going to be over probably long before that, one way or the other.
If you're going 10, you have to hit Wind Fury, right? You have to be dealing 10 damage a turn if you get the 10-mana weapon.
Or Lifesteal, maybe Lifesteal. Like you could get that with the Battle Cry or the Death Rattle could work. I mean, I guess the Death Rattle you're not putting on the 10-mana one because like you would have to break it. You'd have to break it yourself, basically. I mean, maybe if you're a rogue, you could do that just to get the AOE. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, you probably want the Wind Fury just to be able to get the value out of it quickly enough.
Yeah. I definitely agree that I feel like we're doing this for 5 most of the time. I think kind of like Kazakus, the build a golem and the build a spell before.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, the 1 is going to be just really efficient value because you hit the right keywords and it just works out perfectly, right? You battle cry, deal 2 damage to a thing, and use the weapon to deal 2 damage to another thing, and it saves you against the aggro deck. That's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah.
But like this being 4 curves perfectly into the 5, and it's going to mean that you are going to a lot of times be expecting to just play this into the 5 mana weapon and get a decent mid-sized effect. And, it's still 12 damage, right? If you get the, basically Assassin's Blade, right? Regardless of whatever else you're hitting on it, 12 damage, pretty solid. And there's a lot of nice swingy things. So expect to see that the most. And then you may have these Hail Marys of like, well, I got to pick a 10 because I'm up against, something really value, and I'm going to need those haymakers later on. We'll have to see. But I'm always a big fan of these sort of like build a thing ones.
Yeah. Yeah, they're fun. I mean, they're generally better in like a 4-set meta than... I mean, I guess original Kazakus was better, was okay in like metas with more cards in them, but you're also like, if you're playing this for tempo, you're also taking turn 2 off, and then you're playing a 2/4 on 4, right? So like that's rough.
Tough sell.
Like at least Kazakus was like a 4 mana 3/3, right? Like that was at least a little bit. I mean, it's not that much different, but like if you're also like taking one of your prior turns off to forge something, in addition to that, and it's not a deck building restriction, right? Like you could reliably slam either Kazakus on 4. You can't reliably slam this on 4 because you would have had to draw the forge card and then have taken the 2 mana to forge it, right?
Yes and no, right? So there are pros to, being allowed to have other 4-cost cards or not having to be Highlander, right? So, but I wonder how many good forge cards we're gonna have, in each given class. We have seen, as part of the very first preview, that neutral where it's like up 5-6 rush or something if you forge it, or maybe it was a 6/5. I think 6/5 rush if you forge it, and then you can play it on 3. So like maybe that's kind of the line you're going if you're something slower. I think you really want to be looking at the things that you want to forge on 2 and play on 3, because generally it seems like forge is a tempo loss for tempo gain or something to that effect. So how big of a swing back are you doing on 3 to make up for the fact that you're, again, kind of falling back on 4 to play this 2/4 to then come back again on 5 with the weapon you pick up?
Yeah. I mean, there is kind of a deck building restriction in that you're going to have to put more than just like 1 or 2 forge cards in your deck to play this.
Yes.
Right? So like you're going to have to be a little bit more all in on forge as a mechanic to justify this, because you need to... Like, you probably need, I want to say at least 4, probably closer to 6 forge cards to be able to reliably draw one and have forged it by the time that you get to play this, because you don't want this just to be sitting in your hand the whole game, right? If like you have 2 forge cards that are on the bottom 15, and then you draw this and then you're just sad. So it's like you're going to have to run enough forge cards to reliably be able to get this battle cry to go off. So that is a little bit of, depending on the quality of the forge cards. Like we've already seen like the one that we've seen for Druid, they're running that, right? Like that's not hard. So then it's just like, is there one other forge card that they want to run? There probably is. They could probably find it to justify this if that fits in there. So And contiguity in chat is pointing out you don't actually have to have played the forged card. You just have to have used the forged ability to upgrade the forged card. So you don't have to have actually played the card. You just need to have dragged it over your deck and pay the 2 mana to do it.
Which does make things, more flexible because decks are going to have different cost forged things. And, if you've done that on 2, as I think many decks are going to be doing, because, they otherwise would have been just hero powering, then even if it's something that's, more expensive to come down later on, you could still play this on 4, which is very nice.
Yep.
So that does it for the neutral legendaries. There are a bunch of other cards still in terms of, we got, mechs, forge stuff, and then the classic weird neutrals. So I don't know how you want to.
Yeah, I mean, we could just kind of
stuff we've got here.
I mean, the mechs we can just kind of go through quickly. I mean, just
Yeah.
we're going to get a lot of mech support with all the magnetic in the set, right? So we
Yep.
got like Tram Operator, Battle Cry, draw mech. Next mech you play cost 2 less. It's a 5 mana 4/4. Drone Deconstructor, which we kind of alluded to earlier, is a Battle Cry. Get a 1/1 magnetic spark bot with a random bonus effect. Basically, there's like one for every keyword you could imagine, right? Like we're not going to enumerate all of them, but so like effectively what you're do is you play this on 2 and then you just magnetize the spark bot onto the Drone Deconstructor is something that you could do for tempo, or you could just save it. Like you could play this on 1 and then magnetize it onto the next thing, whatever you want to do. But there was some controversy about the colors. Apparently the colors are getting changed before the patch because Reborn shouldn't be purple for some reason that I don't quite understand, but which was probably some WoW lore nonsense that I'm not privy to, but whatever. Inventomatic is a 2 mana 2/3 mech. Whenever you magnetize a minion, give it +1/+1. So we're getting enough magnetize synergy that just kind of makes sense. We've got XB488 Disposal Bot, which is a Battle Cry, deal 5 damage. It's 5 mana 3/2. Battle Cry, deal 5 damage randomly split amongst all enemy minions. Forge, gain lifesteal. So if you want a little mini Denathrius and you want to forge it, you can do that. That's
a weird one that I feel like, I'm never sure how these neutral defensive tools are going to end up playing out. Like sometimes they're a hit and sometimes people's class cards are good enough that they don't need them. But this certainly could be pretty good and will sometimes show up in mech discovers. So the thing is, like, mech decks discover mechs or generate random mechs. So, there are some of these that we're just going to see.
Yeah. And sometimes just having lifesteal on a mech that you're magnetizing things onto could be a good thing, right? Like Ziliax was pretty good. I mean, Ziliax had Rush built into it, but there are other things that you could do to make use of that lifesteal. In addition to the 5 damage from the Battle Cry getting the lifesteal right away. You've got, speaking of things you can magnetize onto it, you have Containment Unit, which is a 7 mana 6/6 magnetic mech with Death Rattle summon a random 8 cost minion. So this
I forgot this was magnetic.
Yeah, so this is Magnetic Plague Protodrake. So you can make a big thing and then drop another big thing, and the big thing is an 8-drop that could, flip the game if you're lucky. So and then Mecha Leaper, who is the most he is
gonna be so much fun.
He is the most annoyed looking frog I have ever seen. 3 mana 2/2 mech, magnetic Death Rattle, give a friendly mech +2/+2 and this Death Rattle. So if you got a wide board of mechs, you can just do Leaper comp, but in constructed.
Yeah. So. If you're sad that you can't do Leapers and BGs anymore, we've got news for you. It's in standard, but it's mechs now. These are going to be interesting. I mean, look, no matter what, if a board clear is played and, they don't have a Death Rattle summon a mech thing, then all of them go away. But I mean, just even the value of you magnetize this onto a thing and make a trade with something else in play, that's pretty good value.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you have rush mechs, like, you know, just keep doing it, right? Like,
Yeah.
why not? Like, it seems like, especially like if you think about how like Paladin, like Mech Paladin played out with like bubble bots and whatever, or like you have like, you still have replicating menace, right? So you can get like the 1/1s that pop out, and then you have this popping on, and those all have rush, and then you can just kind of keep trading, and you know, popping your microbots over and over again, and then giving other ones death rattles and stuff like that. So you can do some things with it. And then the last mech that we have, which is kind of leading us into the Forge and Forge accessories section, is Mechanome Guide, which is a 4-mana 3/4 mech with Battlecry, discover a spell, Forge. The spell costs 3 less. So this is your Mechanome Vizier, is what this is.
Does this worry you a little?
I mean, we already have Nerubian Vizier. This is just like a Nerubian Vizier where instead of like taking a turn off to hero power and Death Knight, you're taking a turn off to spend 2 mana to forge it, right?
I mean, so Vizier, you know, it's been so prevalent because there's like volatile skeletons in Mage, and the ghosts in Relics are undead, and like there's been all these sort of tangential undead that happen to activate it sometimes, and then it's like fine even when it's not activated. This one does feel a little bit more like most of the time you really want to get the discount. You know, not that that's not somewhat true with Vizier, but this one, if you really want the discount, you can always make sure that you have the discount by sacrificing your turn 2. And you know, sometimes that's going to be more or less worth it, but it costs 3 less. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be excited to see 6 mana Scourges.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you're really only saving 1 mana net, right? Because
Yeah,
you're paying 6 mana for a 4-mana 3/4 and a spell, and the spell costs 3 less, right? So like it probably comes out even because you're paying like 3/4 is like Spider Tank stats go on 3 drops, right?
right.
So you're paying 1 mana extra for the discover, and then 2 mana extra to forge it to get the discount. So it's probably coming out net neutral. It's just the fact that you're going to be able to fit that discounted spell in with other things, or get it out like a turn or 2 earlier, right? But like you're not actually saving that much mana on a card like this. But you're getting a discover, like you're discovering a spell. It's going to be able to fit into a turn, and like people run like Volpera Scoundrel, right? Like there are School Teacher is still a card that we're playing to do something like that. So it's like, it's not as good as those. I don't think it's as good as Vizier in general, just because of the flexibility of how many decks have undead, to just get that discount effectively for free. But it's fine. I mean, if you need spells in a mech deck, you probably play it. I don't think you play it over Vizier in a non-mech deck, unless you're doing something like with Forge synergies, like then maybe. But
right, it does seem like, yeah, there are a few factors. So certainly if you're trying to run Ignis the Eternal Flame, then this is more appealing because it's another Forge card where you still get that discover spell thing. It does, you know, certain classes I think will have more or less Forge specific synergies. We can probably expect Warrior to have Forge specific synergies, I would think.
Presumably, yeah.
But I just wonder about, you know, any of the classes that have Haymaker spells. Like, how scary is it going to be just because that class has access to, you know, a way of maybe cheesing that out just hella early?
Oh yeah.
I
mean, Blood Decay might not
factor.
choose, right? Like Blood Decay may just
Yeah.
say, I'm going to run this Anvizir, because like, why should I run my own cards in that deck? While I'll just discover more.
They were running the 5 mana finale thing that discovered you 2 spells. I think you're pretty happy to take that out and put this in. Not
Take
sure
out
if
like
that card ever should have been
paparazzi
in
for
first
God's
place.
sake and put this in,
Oh,
right?
Jesus,
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
so,
I mean, certainly the way people have been building that, there is space to take stuff out to put
Yeah.
this in. I wonder how many other things will run it, but I just feel like the potential of discount 3 to either early Whirlpool or early. I mean, thank goodness we don't have to worry about Frostworm's Fury or anything, but yeah. I
yeah.
mean, this again, the Scourge is the scariest thing, but anything like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, extra
Like Deathborn would be
Trank.
kind of annoying, right?
Yeah, or anything like the dragon spell in Mage, right? The
Oh
amulet,
god, yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I'm actually just kind of bringing up the card library just to see like what we have that's like 8, 9, and 10 in spells right now. Because now I'm curious, and now I know. Now I want to know what I need to be worried about. Yeah, like so the Scourge. Oh, Druid. Miracle Growth, Nightshade Bug, Convoke the Spirits.
Well, Nightshade Bud, I think, is probably self-selectingly bad because that.
Yeah. A lot of the like, there's not that much that's really that scary otherwise. Like collateral damage and Stranglethorn Heart, but I don't know that you're doing this in Hunter anyway. Like Arcane Defenders and Pyroblast and Mage, like okay, fine. Front lines in the Garden's Grace and Paladin, like the Garden's Grace you don't ever pay 10 for it. It's just gonna be like, whatever. Whirlpool in Priest. Shaman has Criminal lineup and From the Other Side. Like, enjoy that. Warlock has Twisting Nether. So 5-mana Twisting Nether, maybe that might be a thing. And then like the Sunwell, right? So
Sure.
like,
Oh God,
fine.
Sunwell.
Yeah. I mean, we could get other big spells, right? Like that could
Right.
happen, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not that much more scared of it than I am of Vizier already, right? Like this is kind of like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Vizier's numb me to that fear, I guess.
Yeah. I guess it really is just the Scourge that is the biggest offender, and maybe it just scares me because I know Death Knight is sort of most likely to run this, and yeah, it's just the potential of
Yeah. Even just like
anything else
like a
that
2-mana
gets
Blood
the
Boil
big
could be
spell.
annoying, right?
Yeah. It's just like if a class already has good hits, but then also has a big terrifying thing, that concerns me.
Yeah. But they're gonna have more spells than their spell pool at least, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pack the House and Shaman would be scary.
Yeah, I suppose. But then we can move on to some of the other Forge and Forge accessories, right? So if you wanna talk through those real fast. I mean, Watch for the Sun is kind of whatever, but I think the next two are more interesting given some of the discourse today, and I would feel like I was betraying Mad at Arms if we didn't talk about about the new combo that we just got today. So we can skip Watch for the Sun and just talk about like Melted Maker and Storm Giant.
Yeah. Yeah, Watch for the Sun. I mean, we can just say what it is. It's like get a random holy spell, and if it's forged, you restore 6. So
yeah,
more healing for priest, I guess. But
yeah.
Yeah. So the next one is Melted Maker, 3 mana, 3/3. After you forge a card, get a copy of it.
Yeah.
It's a little spooky.
Yeah.
So there's also this giant, which is the next one that it's as giants are. It's an 8/8 with a high cost, in this case 8. Forge costs 2 less, can be forged endlessly. So if you have that 3 cost thing and you forge with this, then you'll have 2 of them that are forged once. And if you do it again, you'll have 2 of them that are forged twice. If you've already forged a couple of times before you play the 3/3, then you could just play the 3/3 on the turn where you're doing that final forge, and just play 2 Storm Giants for free because
3
you
or 4.
copied it. Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where it's like, is it going to be the kind of game where you forge on 2 and forge on 3 and play the Storm Giant on 4? Or are you going to save it to go with the Melted Maker and, forge it a few more times to have like a big, I play, many Storm Giants in one turn. Now, granted, that's a lot of mana to be paying to basically do nothing for multiple turns. I mean, that is the name of the game with Forge, is tempo loss for a tempo swing. And so how powerful is that swing going to be? I think in the case of Storm Giant, it depends entirely on the strength and cost of your removals. If you can clear what your opponent's been doing while you've been doing nothing effectively enough that you can, on the flip side, drop a couple of Storm Giants, this could be pretty potent.
Yeah. I mean, they also have taunt, right? So like that's
true.
That's not irrelevant, right? Like you're not just playing a bunch of dumb minions, you're also like getting taunts in there, which is relevant. I could also offer you that Convincing Disguise is a card in Shaman. So you could drop a whole bunch of these and get a whole board of 10 drops. So that's a thing you can do.
I mean, you do have to infuse Convincing Disguise, and it's.
I mean,
gonna be
you
hard
run Schooling in that deck. That's not that difficult.
But like, look, if you are forging, that is time you are not playing fish. So, I don't know how worried I would be of that, but yeah, that's notable. I'd have to take a good look at what the 9s are.
It evolves them into 2 more, so they'd be 10. They'd be 10s. Yeah. Convincing Disguise.
I'm not sure if that's better or worse.
I don't know if it's better or worse actually, but there shouldn't be that. I mean, like Shaman's evolving into 10 drops. Yeah. I mean, Shaman's evolving into 10 drops is like, a tale as old as time, right? Like that's just that's like peanut butter and jelly. But you've got you can't evolve into Titan, so we have Banjosaur, which is not, and DJ Manastorm, Light Ray, Gigantotem, and you got like Amplified out.
Thaddeus.
Yeah, Deathwing the Destroyer, Stoneborn General, right? The Jailer. So you got some stuff there that you can evolve into. It's, obviously you'd rather evolve into the Colossals or the Titans, and that's not happening, but you love the one you're with, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm curious to see this, because on the one hand, it looks like, well, this is the most easily discountable Titan ever, right? You can just know that if you pay your dues on 2 and 3, you will have, or did I say Titan?
Yeah, Giant.
You will have a 4 mana 8/8 taunt, to play on turn 4, and that's pretty consistent as Giants go, right? Previous Giants have been dependent on minions in play, damage or your life total changing on your turn, or spells you've cast, right? How much damage you've taken, how many cards in hand. So this is sort of the most controllable one, but it's a pretty significant cost. So
yeah, you're still paying the 8 mana, like,
right?
I mean, unless you're doing, unless you're doing this combo, right? Then
the Melted Maker thing.
With the Melted Maker, then you're paying the 8 mana for the Storm Giant. You're just paying it in advance, right? So you're like the joke in Discord today was that this is the layaway giant, right? Because you're basically buying this on layaway. You're paying it up front, and then once you paid it off, then you get it. But if you're doing the Melted Maker, then you're getting copies of it. Then it makes sense. But
You know what makes me nervous as usual is like just Druid, right? You know, you forge on 2, you wild growth on 3,
Yep.
you nourish and forge on 4, and
Yep.
then you know you're off to the races, and then you do the final forges with Melted Maker to just play a massive board of these.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Well,
Play
that's your reload, right? I mean, that's
right.
your.
You
because-
play 3 or 4
yeah.
of them on a turn, and as you noted, they have taunt, so that's like, you know, your defense and your offense all in one. I mean, we'll see how consistent that kind of thing would end up being, but particularly when we now have a 1-mana card that can just draw you Nourish. Like,
Yep. Druid, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
yeah. Oh, there's a big neutral. I'll bet it's a Druid card.
So I guess we should just, while we're talking about weird things, we should just kind of talk about these last few weird neutrals. We've got, I guess this is not so weird, Time Lost Proto-Drake. 4/5 dragon with taunt for 4 mana. When you draw this, add a random dragon to your hand. So you don't get it when you play it, you get it when it enters your hand. So you're going to be telling your opponent that you have this, because there are not that many effects like this in Standard.
Right.
We've had when you draw this effects in the game before. I can't remember what card they were on, but
The Pack Mule, Encumbered Pack Mule.
yeah.
Give you a
Then you
copy.
get a copy of it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
and there was also, I think there was like a Warlock card or something. There was there was the Warlock card that healed you. Like the 4/6, the 6 mana 4/6 that healed you for when you drew it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you ran in the
Yeah.
the
in the
twist
Malagos
deck,
in the
right?
Malagos deck, yeah.
the shuffle
plot
your
the
hand.
plot twist deck, yeah.
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 So, I mean, I kind of just see Dragon Paladin when I see this. If that's going to be a thing, I feel like this is in there, right? Just for density of dragons.
Yeah. Or Dragon Priest, maybe. Yeah.
We'll see how many dragons are around, but it's certainly cool that, like, you don't even have to play the thing, and when you do, it has taunt, right? It's just
It's a
better
good
than Yeti.
minion, just like
Yeah.
for the body, and then you get this bonus of another dragon when you draw it that you can play whenever. So
So then Starlight Whelp, which is also a dragon. 3 mana for 3 Battlecry. Get a random card from your starting hand. Sure. Right, like this is one of those things where I can't imagine that you're running this, but you know,
you get it for
sometimes
free. Yeah.
maybe off the Proto Drake, right? You'll just
Yeah.
end up with these, and it's a kind of chain. Makes me, you know, maybe a little nervous, but it's sure. I don't know how many dragons we're getting to feel like
Yeah.
there could be a dragon deck or not.
I mean, Hexlord Malakras was famously
Terrible.
a broken card. So no, it was
Right.
actually terrible. So
Yeah.
I mean,
And
this
this
is
is
at least this is a.
uncertain.
I mean, it's a you know, it's an offensively static card. It's not a card you could be embarrassed to play just for tempo, right?
Yeah.
And then you get another card. Like if you're getting another card from your deck, right? Like whether or not you're putting this in your deck to begin with, like Battlecry get a random card that started in your deck is fine, right?
Mhm.
Like you usually want those, so it's not bad. I don't know if you're going out of your way to do that. I don't know if you're going to mulligan, like if you're going to have a deck that's going to go out of its way to like mulligan awkwardly to play into that. But if you're just like Battlecry, get another card from your deck, like fine, right? I'll take that.
And then that takes us away from dragons over to Ravenous Kraken.
Yeah. So this is Go ahead.
It is a 3 mana 2/5 Battlecry. Destroy a friendly minion. Death Rattle. Summon a copy of it. I mean, this is definitely in that realm of like weird stuff. I don't quite know what this goes in, but if you can exploit it, it's powerful.
Yeah, I mean, Shallow Grave is a card, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to relive the salad days of Carnivorous Cube, this is a way you can do it. I mean, if you have anything that has death rattles
Okay.
that you want to recur, so like the plague one, right? Like there's the plague
Yeah.
death rattle. So if you play the plague death rattle, I think that was a 2-drop, right? And then you play this on 3, kill it. This dies. You get another one. You shuffle more plagues in. Maybe that's something that that you want to do. I'm sure that there's some sort of broken combo that will exist that I'm not smart enough to figure out. But that's a thing you can do with it. So there were a lot of people who were very excited because anything that even like looks like it might have been in the same room as a Carnivorous Cube once gets a certain number of people very, very excited to see how they can abuse it.
A little extra work here, whether it's Warlock with Shallow Grave or Death Knight with Death Growl. There's
Yelling Yodeler
to be made, but it is not doing the work all on its own.
Yeah, Yelling Yodeler is probably like the best case scenario for this, right? Because then you do get to do that.
Sure.
Trigger it again. So, but yeah, you're gonna have to work for it, and it's gonna take like several turns of setup to get this to happen. But it'll happen, and somebody will find something to break it. They always do. And then we get the card that made my little priest ears perk up, which is Disguised Kathir. So 5 mana, 3/3. Every turn that this is in your hand, transform into a random card in your opponent's deck. So once upon a time, we had a card called Chameleos. That was terrible, but it was a card. And that was a random card in your opponent's hand. This is actually better than Chameleos because it's not going to turn into the same thing over and over again if your opponent's just holding the same card on the left. And so it'll be a little bit more varied. And Harvester of Envy, apparently it's bugged with this in Chameleos right now. It's bugged with Chameleos and Wild, but I saw Minty Fresh saying that this will be fixed. Maybe not for launch, but not for the expansion launch, but sometime in the near future to get that fixed so that it will actually act as a copy for Harvester of Envy purposes, which, I don't often do Harvester of Envy things, but when I do, I like them to be as degenerate as possible. So, this seems like something that would be up my alley,
Yep.
Just yank that King Crush out of the deck, I guess that's going to be a little bit more expensive, but what do you do? And then
just a little.
And then we have Sharp-Eyed Seeker, which is a 3 mana 3/3 beast with Battle Cry. If there is a card in your deck that didn't start there, draw it. So if you want to get your snapshot developed at the 1 hour photomat, then that is something that you can do.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't think of that. I mean, I can't imagine you're running this in a situation where it's like just the photograph that you're looking for, right? You've got to be doing more than that. But, we still have Phelan, so this could immediately pull one of the Colossals into your hand. I like
Finley.
this kind of card.
Yeah, I mean, if Finley, whatever you shuffled in, usually I believe gets pulled with Finley because it technically didn't start in your deck. That's it does because you could Steam Cleaner after a Finley in the priest mirror.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Weird. That feels wrong. But
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things about the control priest mirror that are wrong at all. So like.
yeah, I believe that.
But yeah, it's but I mean, certainly even just like getting your snapshot out, like it's important to note that it is only going to draw a single card.
Right.
So it will draw if there is more than one that are in your deck that did not start in your deck, it will draw one. It will not draw all of them.
Right. That would be a little too good.
That would be broken. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, let me just get all the horsemen.
Well, I mean, that would finally be a use case for tome tampering, but that's not what we're doing here. So
Yeah, this is one of those that I want to keep an eye on because it feels like there could be a fringe deck where this like just ends up slotting right in. I don't know if that'll be now. I don't know if it'll be ever, but it's always interesting to me when there's targeted draw effects, and the fact that this is for something that traditionally is hard to deal with because you are shuffling stuff into your deck and having to pick it up later, making that easier. It's just kind of cool.
yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting effect that we haven't really had. Whenever you can targeted draw something, then that's worth. I mean, and like you might just like get this off an Amalgam of the Deep sometimes, right? Like that's a thing that could happen. Like you could just get this off an Amalgam of the Deep and like Menagerie Warrior, and like I don't know what the hell you're shuffling into your deck with Menagerie Warrior, but let's not let's not think too hard about that. But there are use cases for it. So yeah, I think that's. I mean, there's a few more neutrals. You can always go to the card library on the Play Hearthstone site to see all of the reveals. We're not going to talk about every single card. We're trying to talk about more about packages and notable cards that you may want to pay attention to.
Yeah.
But and worth mentioning, we are going to be talking about a number of Paladin cards individually, because we are going to be revealing them on stream Tuesday, July 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern. So you want to be here for those Paladin card reveals, please come and hang out. We're really excited about it. We've gotten to reveal one card once after the first Ben Lee interview. I think it was was it the Ben Lee interview? It was the 300th episode,
yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that we've gotten one card reveal, but we're getting a whole package this time, so we're really excited about that. So please do come out and show support when we do that. And but that is then, and this is now, so we should probably close out this episode so that we can get to that one.
Yeah. So we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coinconcede.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. And write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede, as well as like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. If you would like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Doge DK, Kresh, Cap, Beef Squatch, David P, Walu, Jeremy T, Bottle Caps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Forgiven One, and Enraged Chicken. And thank you, Matt at Arms, for your sub during the show. Wicked, Coin Concedes.
Did I coin concede to my daughter last week? I don't remember if I did.
I don't recall.
I don't think I did, but yeah. So my oldest daughter passed her driver's permit test last week, which is exciting and terrifying all at the same time. So she has since done some driving of the new minivan in a parking lot, which was not under my watch. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that much, because but apparently she did that, and she's been very happy, and she's had some driving lessons, and hopefully we'll have a license by the end of the summer, and at which point all of my hair will turn gray immediately, because that's how these things work. So
Yep.
Yeah. What about you, Edo?
So my coin concede is going to go to my wife, who has been very patient with me, getting things together. I've been doing my best to kind of set things up in preparation for the baby, but some things are not going, as fast as we'd hoped. Been working on like doing a coat of water sealant basically in the corner of the basement where my office is going to be, because I'm going to have a lot of tech there that I don't want damaged. And so as much as we want that room to be like done very quickly so we can start moving my stuff down there and getting the nursery ready and everything, she's been very understanding that like I'm working on it. It's going to take a while, as well as like, cleaning the house and organizing, getting people to help move furniture and stuff. As well as the fact that I have been sleeping really poorly recently. I think combination of just like being out of whack since I'm no longer waking up at 7:30 every morning, take care of my nephew, and also for a while I was staying up quite late, but then when I wanted to actually go to sleep at a reasonable time again, I just haven't been able to, in combination with like my cough that sometimes keeps her up. So I finally did something that I do not advise, but every once in a while it works for me. I call it a hard reset, where I stay up all night and then all day the following day. So I have been awake since, I don't know, yesterday. I guess actually I slept in a stupid amount. So it's actually since like 1:26 when I woke up or whatever previously, but I didn't sleep all night. And
You've been
now,
you've been
I think-
awake for close to 36 hours, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, probably something like that. I don't know.
Okay,
But
that's a normal thing.
finally, I think I can go to sleep at like a normal human time and wake up, ideally, at a normal human time. We'll see.
Good luck with that. Well,
Thanks.
then I guess we ought to finish this episode up so you can get to bed. So, so keep calm and learn how magnets work. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Stopping recording. Oh, just almost perfectly 2 hours. If we went like 15 seconds more, it would have been 2 hours. All right. Well,
I am going to save this and edit tomorrow.
yeah, no, do not. I forbid you to edit this tonight. You are not allowed to edit this tonight. You need to go straight to bed. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Yeah. I think Edelwife agrees with you.
Yes. Yeah.
She just did a wavy thing at me.
Yes, absolutely. No, we're gonna get you to bed ASAP. I'm going into full Hearthstone dad mode. All right, so we're gonna. I guess why don't we raid? We'll raid Ron Mexico.
Sure.
And who is a high level Hunter player who is very excited that I hit legend with Hunter. Another person who I'm looking forward to disappointing. I was joking around that I got my Hunter wins up above 3,000. I was joking to CDC that he should just cut off the leaderboard at my name, because if I have more Hunter wins than you, you probably don't belong on the leaderboard.
Yep.
All right. Anyway, chat. Thanks for hanging out. Come back on Tuesday. Remember, Tuesday 8 p.m. Eastern, and for the reveals. And have a great night. Bye.
Bye.